Yes, welcome back to Daybreak, and remember the hashtag to use is still Daybreak. A lot of comments still filtering through from that interview, Sam Gituku and Daktari Evans Odhiambo Kidero. So keep talking to us using that hashtag Daybreak. Right about now, though, we also want to do what we do every Tuesday, which is engage. We open it up for you to ask different questions as you did. Normally the time frame doesn't allow us to answer all of them, but we try, and we always advise you that after the show you don't have to wait until Tuesday. You can always reach out to CJ Atemo, who joins us here, Karibu Sana,
Santa, and
Welly Odendo, and those are their handles, at CJ Atemo and at Welly Odendo. I want to pick up from last week some of the questions that we were not able to answer. And remember, the SMS line is 22422. I'll say it again, 22422, and then the hashtag to use is Daybreak. Now there's this question here. She didn't leave her name. She says, I have been married for 4 years. 4 years down the line, my man is alcoholic. All along I have been the provider to myself, but for the kids he provides only food and school, but clothing, only food and school, but clothing. 4 years down the line, he's never concerned. He drinks a lot. He comes home late. He come even 5 in the morning. I've done a lot clothing him, but he never changes. All along he says, I have a future, but I don't know the impact of this. Is this really a marriage? That is the question.
I don't like her.
And the hashtag is Daybreak, and the SMS line is still 22422.
I don't like how well he's pointing at me. I think there's several facets to this.
Yes.
One, she talks about the man provides fees, right? And he does some basics. And then she talks about he doesn't buy clothes. So then 4 years down the line, then he's become an alcoholic. I really would want to know whether she really means that he was never drinking before. Then, or it was something that was there, then it became worse 4 years down the line. If he wasn't a drunkard before, and then he turned into one after 4 years, there must have been something that triggered that. He may be battling with something, or he may have certain kind of influences, certain friends, or he may have broken into a certain level that gives him that luxury to spend a bit more. There must be something. People don't just change. There are always triggers of change. I think the positive to it is that he at least takes care of certain bills. And maybe there's an assumption that he has that they're supposed to share the chores. So he doesn't feel like clothing is a priority. He thinks he's taking care of that, which is really the main deal. Because she talks about, I'm not very sure I got it very clearly, but it's like she talks about she also buys his clothes. His
clothes, yes.
Then that would show you how he looks at clothing. Because it's not that he's buying his own and then not buying for the children. He's not even buying his own. So maybe he's somebody who doesn't think that, buying clothes is anything that is major. I think what she needs to do is, they need to have a conversation over certain expectations. There are changes that have happened. I always love to say this, that there's three kinds of expectations that people must deal with: the unspoken, the unrealistic, and then the inconsistent expectations. The unspoken is where I'm thinking, well, you should be doing this, so I don't talk about it, and then I'm thinking, but it is obvious. Most things that we think are obvious are not obvious because we're not socialized the same. And then there are those unrealistic ones where sometimes I'm expecting somebody to be what they cannot be. Then there are those inconsistent ones where today yellow is my color, tomorrow it's blue, and this person has to keep on catching up with what I expect. When they think that they have attained what I wanted, then I've changed into something else. So if there is any unspoken expectation that she has on this man, or there are assumptions in the marriage, then they need to talk about that. But I've not had, apart from the drinking till morning, I've not had anything that is fundamentally crazy with the guy.
And also, is that a thing in terms of a man's view? Because he seems to, and I might be interpreting it wrong, but for me, it seems like amesema tunalipia watoto karo ya shule, nafanya hivi, I've done my part. The rest of the time, what I do, so long as I'm taking care of the children, that's my main duty, I'm done.
Yeah, that could be. And I think many people need to understand that human beings are like machines. They consistently need to be serviced in order to function. The more you add on a human being, the more you need to service them so that you can understand exactly what the new role dictates. Maybe when they started dating, when it was just the two of them, they were just doing that. But when the kids came in and maybe the lady expanded herself, the man felt like I can still retain what I was doing when we came in. So it is important for couples, it is important for parents, it is important for men to consistently find opportunities. And this is why people like Chris, because on such matters I would recommend Chris for you, because you can even hear he sees he has an expectation, because unfortunately we begin to speak at the point of frustration, but the smoke screen told you this could be a fire. You saw it first year, you said I will quietly communicate, but I'll expect him to change. Then it became the second year. Then it became the third year. By the time you're coming out, it's the fourth year. Now, you go to tell the man that he's irresponsible, and he'll be going like, but this is how we've lived. Hii story, ni wale mademu meka now. You want me to be like somebody else, and all that. So it is going to be very hard to pull the handbrake on something that has been running for 4 years. So, but I would say all hope is not lost. CJ Atemo can be able to deal with that, but they need to start servicing that relationship, because it just means load has increased, but expansion on one partner has not yet been made clear. We need to expand our roles here.
More and more. All right, I'm going to read another SMS that came in. Again, the number is 22422. That is 22422. This one is from a lady called Ruth. She says, hi, my name is Ruth. My husband sleeps in a different room. I suspect he has a side chick. When I ask him, he refers to me as useless and becomes violent. The same thing happens in his parents' house. They sleep and cook separately. So how would you advise one, Ruth? Is it because, and I find it interesting that she has mentioned that the same thing happens in the parents' house, where I think she's trying to draw her inference or conclusion from the fact that come and happen, look, I guess Ujama has been influenced by whatever is happening
there. Maybe if the man maybe is coming from a polygamous home, maybe that's how he saw their family organize that. But I would like to make ladies to understand that men don't communicate on the same frequency as them. A man may simply be dealing with something different and reflecting something different over here. Not all our problems are relational and sexual as men.
Contrary to public
belief. A man may even be driving around and may just not want to come back home, and you may think, what could he be doing up to 5 o'clock in the morning? If he's not with me, you kona nani. But how men process, because women have the privilege of being dual, so they can, if you look at, should you see a family that has been raised up by a single parent, if one is raised up by a single mother, they have chances of even becoming president. But if it's raised up by a single father, you actually see they get a lot of problems, because men don't know how to be dual. They don't know how to be nurturing and at the same time leading. But women can do that, so they can process difficult conversations easily and separate themselves when they get home. But men compartmentalize, and these compartments make them, when they're dealing with something maybe like debt or auction, that mood remains with them everywhere they go. And they may not want to come and blow up in the house, so they may decide, let me stay off. But at that time, you are there trying to pump in, why are you not sleeping with me, you know. And maybe they are dealing with other issues. So it is important, the man is communicating something, that he is dealing with something. I cannot put my finger and say it has something to do with another woman, but I can clearly tell the lady that he's dealing with something. He's actually entered into what we call cave mode, where he does not want you near him, and it is okay to allow somebody sometimes to be there by themselves. The more you push him, the more he will move away.
Right.
the more you create the enabling environment for him and he feels safe, the more he will come through and tell you, by the way, this is what has been eating on me for the last 2 or 3 weeks. But if you keep pushing him and probing him, is it another woman, nimekubo, umechoka na mimi, those things that you're telling him are the things that he will be experiencing in such a mode. So I think he has entered into cave mode and he's dealing with something. And if he can find other men to talk to them, talk to him, the better. But I know he's probably dealing with something, not necessarily another woman. Yeah.
All right. What would you...
You know, well, he's just said what I would say, because men unpack when they feel safe. When you make the environment safe, then they begin to, you know, talk about things. Because most of what men have as their secrets are known by women. And I usually like to ask wives this: why are you not the person then that the man is talking to? Because most of the secrets are known by a colleague, they're known by a friend, a partner somewhere. Men rarely talk to fellow men about their deep issues. Somewhere they'll just find a woman who's listening, where the stakes are very low, because they also love to protect their ego, you know. So if you raise the stakes, then he may not open up. If he feels you're going to react when he tells you that the money we had saved to buy some land somewhere, I tried to do a deal somewhere and the deal did not go through, and then he thinks you're going to blow up, he'll be quiet. So he'll be trying to fix this thing and then come back to you when he has fixed it. So this pressure makes that place very unsafe for the man. And anytime men are under siege, they go mental. Men actually are very mental. You know, women are more environmental. Men are mental. So he'll go mental. He starts processing his thoughts and conversations mentally. And that's the place where the silence comes in. It's not that he's not talking. He's talking a lot in here, in his head. So at that particular point, then, if you don't represent the safety, then he wants to be away from you. And so I agree with Welly, you know, give the man time. And just try to find other ways, you know, probably then talk to somebody who is a bit more friendly to him, just find out what is he dealing with. Sometimes also you may find that somebody is silently blaming their partner over something. You know, when people ask us questions, they don't give too much detail. But there could have been something that happened somewhere along the line, so that this man has developed resentment. There could be a silent blame or something like that.
To the fact that he's even sleeping in a different...
Yeah.
That is a man who... I mean, I'm no expert, but...
You know, men are weak when it comes to their wives. They're very weak when it comes to their wives. Rarely would they want to... It's the crazy men who will beat up their wives and stuff like that, but men are generally weak. You know, if your wife texted you at 5 and said, we need this at home, I'll tell you, Willis, you'll drop everything else. And you will go.
This is true.
There's a soft side that they bring out of us. So for him to get to the place where, look, he doesn't even want to engage with her, there may be something he's feeling, but he doesn't know how to react. Sometimes you don't know how to fight what you love. And you do not want to go against something that you love. So sometimes silence is also an option in that case. So maybe there's been something that they've done together, then he's feeling bitter or resentment, or, you know, he feels he wasn't supported in something, she's not been there in certain things, and then now the guy just decides to disconnect. All
right, I have some more that are coming in, and even before we go to the ones from last week, where there's some still more that are coming in right now on a SMS platform. Someone says, what do you do when you've loved a man, giving him a baby, done all the sacrifices to see him succeed? Just when he succeeds and you thought that you are going to be happy together, he runs away from you, rejecting even his own baby. Moving on is tough for me, and being with him is even more tough. It's been 8 months now since our marriage failed.
I just have one sentence and then I'll allow Welly to do this. You don't give a man a baby. No, men are not given babies. Never think that by getting a baby you've done a man a favor. How a man relates to the baby and how a man relates to the lady, those are two different things.
Two different relationships.
It's not an entire package. It's not one package. So you cannot get a man committed to you just because you have a baby with him. No. If he wants to leave, he will leave. Men stay because they want to stay, not because you had a baby. In fact, sometimes having the baby makes them run. Because they feel that you're trying to tie them into a commitment and responsibility that they're not willing to be in. So now you're just trying to tie their hands and complicate their lives, so they don't know how to do anything else apart from run. So I don't think that giving, you'd do something like you give the man the baby so that you loved him. No.
Yeah. So what would you say to her? What does she do? Because she's asking, what do you do? She sounds very frustrated.
I think,
excuse me.
I'll tell that woman that, the lady, sorry, whichever she prefers, that I don't know why women, because I can read some level of desperation. And in her desperation, she tried to become the mother to the man rather than the wife or the girl to the man. And when you become my mother, you can never be my wife. And when a woman gets desperate, they try to think that, let me remove every problem this man has so that he will be able to commit himself to me. But when you remove problems from a man, now you make him think clearly of what he wants to do with his life. And that's why the man has moved away, because you just became the second mother. And that is why, and Chris said this last week, and I'll repeat it today, a lady should always use their power at the beginning, because as the relationship begins to settle down, you are not going to increase your power. It's going to get to a place, it's going to now be a total pull and push for you to get anything out of it. So I think most of the time, ladies get into problems when they begin to mother their boyfriends or mother their men, to the degree that they make that man actually feel, I have a mother in you. Now I'll find a wife in her. And then you get stuck, because you can hear saying, I've done everything, I've done this, and I've done this. And she's not the only one. Most of them have become victims of such kinds of men. A real man should get to a place and tell you, by the way, this is what I want. Men should be directional. So if you just find that they're just raising problems, but there's no sense of direction of where they want to be in life, chances are they're not thinking of their future with you. Yeah.
I think I may add, yes. He's just opened it up so well that you need to create the environment where the man has something else he pursues, not you. Because men usually operate based on what they do. Again, as well, say not relationships. Most men, relationship is not their primary pursuit. It's their purpose. So if you eliminate everything else and try to get this guy now to focus only on the relationship, he will feel frustrated. And he will jump out to find meaning in life. A woman can quit her job to make a relationship work. A man can quit a relationship to make a job work. His work. So we're configured very differently. So instead of doing everything for the man, just create the environment for him to become the man that he needs to be. And you don't have to do everything for him. We've got ladies nowadays, they will pay the rent for the guy, buy the car on loan, give him to drive, all of this just trying to make the guy stick over there. He won't. He will use all those conveniences, then he will reach out somewhere else. So don't do all that mad stuff, just trying to trap a man. He's not going to stay there.
Yes, there are some other comments that are coming here, some in relation to the things we're talking about. Someone says, Willis, by the way, today's men don't want responsibility. I do everything in the house, yet he doesn't appreciate any time. I try to request for support, he becomes violent. And then somebody says, some cheeky guy called David says, hey, that guy in that relationship was arriving at 5 a.m. In fact, he's very early. Hajachelewa. Then there's somebody here who says that, how do you deal with a husband who moves, and I'm trying to paraphrase because of Ezekiel Mutua, who moves around with a house girl? I want to give him an ultimatum that if I catch him again, he will move out of our home. This happened a year ago and I'm unable to deal with it.
Wow. I don't know. I don't know if maybe how best we can tell this to our women, that it won't work. Those ultimatums, those threats won't work. You've just given him what you've said, get caught. So he'll just make sure he does not get caught soon. As we look at the mechanics around men, because with ladies it's different, the mechanics around men, as much as a man is either moving around, you need to ask yourself, what does that woman provide? Need. What need does that house girl meet in that man? Because we are not hearing them complaining of being raped. Is consensus or it's consensual. So that means either, and I'm not trying to get myself into trouble with our women, but there is an unmet need, and as I'll use the word of Pastor Chris here, there is something this man has not communicated to you, but he expects it from you. So every time somebody meets that expectation, he hunts her. And so it's much deeper, because a man does not need to be in love to have sex. But if a need is met, and you will even look at the women and you'll say, seriously, sincerely. This person looks like Welly Odendo. What kind of a girl is this? And how can he? And because we are, men have got some voids in them that immediately, because men are like dogs. Immediately you touch them.
At the what?
Like dogs. You just, like, you can train a dog, but you can't. It's hard to train cats. Cats come with their own training, but you can't train them. But men, you can put a set of instructions.
Thank
and
you
just
for clarifying.
Yeah. So it is important for the lady to know what is the thing this man is trying to communicate, and maybe he lacks the courage, because our biggest fear as men is to find the words that we will use that will not be used against us when now we are before the counselor, then before the pastor, then before your parents, then before, because I can tell you, actually, I hate this thing about you, and then you'll just pick the word hate and remove this thing, and then it will be I hate you. And so it is important for me to just clarify that the woman cannot do anything to make the man more faithful unless he understands what is the thing that is dragging him or pulling him into that unfaithfulness. And it doesn't mean that she has done anything wrong. It just means the man has been afraid to tell the woman exactly. Maybe it's either frequency, maybe it's creativity, and he can't say maybe they are serious senior elders, and then in the place of worship, and then you say, well, there's some
amen
that I would like, but how do I start that conversation? And you don't think of me na hizo ulijulia wapi wewe. Yeah, so maybe
right. And even as you answer that one, there's still another one almost the same. A lady called Doreen says, they have 2 sons, and my husband began dealing with married men, and when I confronted him, he apologized, but he has never stopped. Sometimes he may tell me he's dealing with his behaviors, therefore I give him time. But then recently he built a house and relocated us forcefully. I feel so hurt mentally and emotionally.
He deals with married men?
Women, sorry.
Married women?
Yes.
Well, I think there's also something that sometimes happens when people have been in marriage. They lose a certain level of excitement. Everybody has got their different appetites, whether it is for food or whether it is for intimacy. Those are things that people need to talk about. All partners need to learn about each other. There's somebody you live with. The only problem is that when it comes to matters of intimacy, it's nearly taboo. Like Welly was saying, sometimes somebody doesn't know how to communicate that. They don't know how to look that vulnerable and say, these are my needs. At the point that mostly they start from a point of friendship. They can talk about anything. People will be texting, calling, they'll tell each other all kinds of stuff. They come into marriage, they have children, so now you're supposed to behave like a husband, behave like a wife. The stakes are so high. And then there's a certain childlike heart that begins to disappear, because you're supposed to be a husband, be a man. So you can't really talk freely, especially about certain things. So like he says, so somebody will be wondering, what kind of person are you? What kind of thoughts are those? You find partners even rebuke each other for thinking in certain ways, just thinking cheeky, because now it looks like this is what you do elsewhere. So people begin to, just cave in. So they don't speak. Then the excitement that was at the beginning dies off. then this person begins to find excitement elsewhere. Something that just stirs up. That may just be a need, like he said, you know. And so they begin to draw elsewhere. That may even be the case for this person who's going after the married women, because the adrenaline of going after something that is so dangerous may be meeting a need in him. The thing may not even be the act. It may just be the fact that it's like somebody who steals, not because they want to get money. They already have money, but they're just thinking, you know, let's hit the next one. Let's go into a place that is so secure and tight, because they derive their adrenaline and their joy from the fact that they beat such a system. So maybe this guy just wants something that is challenging him. And you know, when the adrenaline is high, the excitement also becomes very high, which may not be the case in his marriage. And so I think that for some of these couples, they need to get back the excitement. They need to get back into doing certain things that are naughty. This is your spouse, you know, write each other naughty notes, dress up for them, go out with them somewhere. Be very unscheduled in how you, because some guys work like they're in a school, you know, there's a timetable. Yes. There's a timetable. And so it becomes very routine, it becomes very boring. And so somebody may begin to look for, they love their partner, they want to stick with his partner, but then they feel they need a spice from somewhere else. Communication again, Willis. It's a matter of communication. Yeah.
All right, we have another one here. Some of them are very long, but I'll try and read them. Someone says here, how can I balance between taking care of we have a new baby, I assume, 3-month-old baby, and my husband. We've been married for a year now. Due to waking up at night to feed the baby, crying the whole night, sometimes staying awake almost the whole night, I'm not able to wake up early and prepare my husband for the job. And then also another one says, I got pregnant for this man and realized he's heavy drinking, which made him borrow a lot. At some point, life caught up with him. He got depressed, he quit his job. We had to separate since he couldn't provide for me and the baby, and had started being violent while I had just given birth. After 5 months, he comes and says he's a changed man and wants to be back. And yet I am now settled and I had already moved on. Should I give him a chance?
Well, I would say that if I were to advise the lady, love is like a drug, yeah? And once you taste it and you come near it, your objectivity greatly reduces. If that man has changed, tell that man, I want you to go see Chris and let Chris come and give me the feedback and assure me of the change. But him walking back to you, he already knows the access codes. He knows how he has to just work his way back into your life. When somebody wants to work their way into somebody's life, whom they love, they need to work it through somebody who will be objective, because you are at a subjective position. There's a kid, there is this, there is the other. But get somebody who will bring objectivity and say, hey, I've talked to Welly, I've talked to Willis, or I've talked to anybody out there, I've talked to my uncle, and I want you to sit down with my uncle. And if my uncle agrees, if you're serious that you've changed, my uncle will tell me. And if you have somebody like that whom you trust, now don't go and throw him off at a boy who is hitting you just to show him how well you've moved on. Because if she's asking whether to take him back, that means she's already at 50%
it's consideration. So bring somebody who will bring objectivity. And sometimes objective people cannot be your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, the girls you cried with when he was misbehaving and he left you at 5 months and he quit his job. Those are the and you know how you're feeling inside. Get somebody who's objective, somebody who has got some tools of analysis, and somebody who maybe can be able to tell you that this man, okay, he's at 70%, the 30% is a safe space that you can work on together. Get an objective arbitrator.
I like that word, arbitrator. The middle one, yes.
But I'll tell the lady she hasn't moved on.
Yeah.
She hasn't. If she had moved on, her no would be no, and it remains a very soft no. You know, Willis, if you have to shout to let me know that you don't want me to be in your life, then I still have a part in your life. Because when you're at peace with the decision you have made, It doesn't have to be loud. You don't have to scream about it. You don't have to fight me about it. Like, I don't want to see you, and then you bang the doors. You've not dealt with that thing. The day somebody deals with a breakup and has closure, they can actually meet you and smile, and they know it's not going to affect them. There's nothing that is going to come out of that. But if the emotions that still come out, then somebody has not actually moved on. In this case, she would not be considering. She wouldn't even have asked this question if she had moved on. It would be, it's a no. It's not a consideration. It's not even something that she's thinking about. She knows she's moving on with her life. So there's a place in her that wants to know whether this guy has really changed. And as Welly says, you know, when you want objectivity, the man, first of all, needs to change for him, not for her. Not for her. You don't get somebody changing for you because they know what you want. And then they come in. Once they're in there, they may relapse. Then you keep on doing this over and over. The person must change for them and do things not because they want you back, but because they want their lives to be better. If somebody doesn't love themselves well enough to make certain changes for their own life, they're not going to do that for you for long. Because anytime that motivation is lost, they go back into who they were. Anytime you're having a problem with him, he sees there's no need, you know, for him to become a better man, because he was, that's why all these ladies are talking about, you know, I got a baby for him, I was doing this for him, because the motivation is the other person. And when that motivation is removed, then there is no need to continue doing the same thing. So I think this guy needs to be held accountable to change for him, not for the lady. Yeah.
All right, and maybe just one last one. Says here, and I'll take two again. Someone says, hi Willis, I had a man who was good. He expressed love to me and our two sons. He paid fees, rent. He generally supported us. I then realized he was cheating on me. It took me over 3 years of patience as I gathered evidence, and it was painful. So he fled. Now there is no calls, nothing, and it's been 6 years. Wow. And then somebody says, my husband has been cheating on me with a lady who is a student. When I asked him about it, he told me the lady is beautiful and has personality. And the lady has been sending me their photos together. When I asked my husband, he says, what's wrong with the photos? And yet we've been married for 7 years with 2 kids.
He'll take the first, I'll take the second.
The first one is on for 6 years. How does...
He wants to run like the man.
Yes. I wanted to run like the man. I wanted to go find the man and talk to him.
What happens now in such a situation? The guy was okay, 2 sons, paid fees, paid rent, supported them. Then she gathered information for 3 years, found out the guy was cheating. Now it's gone for 6 years.
Gone?
Yes.
Does not come back home. I'm sorry, first of all, because unfortunately sometimes men, as best as I want to put it, is that men think in terms of responsibility, not relationship. And when a man feels like I am fully performing my responsibilities, it doesn't mean that I don't value relationship, but it just means that the person I'm relationship with must keep at par with the growing demands, because for him to be able to perform those functions, that means he had to put in some work, put in some time somewhere. Something happens in relationships, and this is what you will notice as a flow. When the kids show up, something changes. Because when the kids show up, for the first formative years, the first 5-6 years, the lady channels her affection from the man and takes them to the kid, because the lady starts interacting with the kid from the inside out. The man starts interacting with the kid 9 months later. But because of the physiological changes that occurred in the baby at the point of conception, or to the woman at the point of conception, she began the relationship before in a very internal way. The man, it will be preparing, thinking, because let's be honest, we don't have those labor pains. You'll just say, I'm supporting my wife, I'm supporting my wife. But literally, you will not, you'll only be there because you have to be there. Now, this is 1 year later. So this girl has been nurturing 1 year. So she's already almost 1 year ahead of you in her relationship. So they are born with that child. And we're not saying kids are bad, but just listen to the thought, then agree or disagree. So by the time the baby comes in, and the first 3 months, she purely on breast milk and all that. And so that bond continues to be so strong. And you'll notice most of these problems that you're seeing in relationships, they begin, you'll always hear, I got a kid, I got him a kid. Because the women think that the way they were attached to that kid is the way the man was attached to that kid. But the man was attached to you. They were attached to you.
Right.
And that attachment to you, when you bring the kid now, so women when they're having fights, they'll say, na nimekuzalia, nimekufanyia, but the man is saying those are two separate entities, because there are still needs I have as a man that kid cannot meet in me. Only a woman can. While you're busy being the mother and you get overly caught up, oh, he's done this, and you're caught up and moving with that flow, you begin to abandon a space in that man. And that's where most men become vulnerable, because they begin to feel a sense of neglect, and they begin to say, since your focus of affection and attention is the child, I'll make sure they eat, I'll make sure they sleep, I'll make sure they do all this. Then you women, after 5 years, when the kid now goes to school, you go back to saying, why aren't you not spending time with me as we used to? Because it's as if the kid now has graduated. Now, you used to be the kid 8, we went back to the office. Aso umeenda akienda shule, hauna kitu ya kudu. So unakam unajiuliza, na nani ako wapi siku hizi? Because now the kid has started, the socialization of the kid has begun. He has his own friends. You're no longer the guy. Now he doesn't want you to kiss him in public, hold his hand in public. So as the kid also moves away, and the man moved away 5 years, the kid is moving away 5 years later, the woman finds himself fighting consistently for the kid's attention and for the man's attention. And so she begins to become needy and emotionally dependent. And when you begin to be emotionally needy because you've poured 4 years into this child, and now he's gone to school with self-esteem. This man, because of 4 years, he gave you space to take care of your kid. He made sure they ate, slept. He was there alone, deprived from you. And then now you come back and you want to now like make withdrawals from both of them. And it's not going to work. So I think there ought to be a way to navigate through, especially when you get the first kid. I always advise, don't rush the children. Don't rush the children. Don't be in a hurry to name your mother, your father, your grandfather, Luanda Magere, just because you are, oh, by the way, say, when the kid comes in, that relationship will change significantly. And most of the time, it will create that gap, and it will not be possible. That's what I would say.
All right, and for the lady who was being sent photos, and who the husband said that I'm going out with this lady because she's beautiful and has a great personality.
You know, relationships must have the element of respect, and that has been lost in that place. Not to justify the guys who have what is said in Pangwa Kando, but you see, it is one thing to do something wrong and know that it is wrong enough to try and hide it. It's another thing when you do this, you know that it is wrong, and then you do it and put it all over the face of the other person. It means that you have lost respect for them. And so this lady may be in a relationship with herself. She may have lost the relationship. At the point where the husband will use the other woman, say such kind of stuff like, you know, she's beautiful. Those are very, words are very heavy when it comes to women. You know, for women, words are seeds, just the same way we give them the natural seed. They're seeds that they take up and then they incubate, allow that to germinate, and eventually it produces something. So those are very heavy words to speak to your wife, because when you say she's beautiful, what does that mean about the wife? You know, it's something that he's saying. So I think he has lost respect for her. And sometimes you need to regain your own respect. People treat you the way you permit them to treat you. In fact, people treat you the way you show them they should treat you. And maybe this man does not feel that this woman is adding value to the relationship anymore. So this is abusive, an abusive relationship already, because he feels she's not adding value, she can take whatever. You know, maybe he's the one who's providing, maybe he's the one who's doing everything, and then he feels like she has nowhere to go. So she has to take in my madness or not. I think that she needs to try and regain her respect. There may be a need for her to find something else that she does just to build her self-esteem and confidence. She may also need to talk to somebody else, because if she doesn't deal with that, the emotional impact of what is happening to her right now, in the next years to come, if the man chooses to go away, she will find that she was left an empty shell emotionally, not able to love herself or love somebody else, and so she may easily get into another abusive relationship. So I think she needs to try and protect her space, regain her respect, talk to somebody who will be filling her in, you know, positively, find some other things that she can do that will rebuild her self-esteem. Stop interacting with this little girl, because, you know, now when it is a little girl, she'll be doing all that comparison and thinking, why did he go for a young girl or something? Just block her out. Seek help somewhere else. Yeah, I'd say just seek help somewhere else.
All right, and speaking about seeking help, you can always seek help right here with these two gentlemen at CJ Atemo and at Welly Odendo. Don't suffer alone, because the time that we normally have is not sufficient to answer all of them, and you send so many SMSs, and we do us not reading the SMSs does not mean that we do not acknowledge the severity or the seriousness of your issue. It's just because of time. However, we do advise that you can go ahead and add them to your social media following, reach out to them, or if you don't feel comfortable with them, reach out to somebody you do feel comfortable with, your pastor, professional, a counselor, and they'll be able to help you. Some of the questions that we didn't get today, we'll start with them again next week. Until that time, stay safe, reach out, don't suffer alone. Now, Mungu anakupenda. Hata hizi vitu zikihappen, bado anakupenda tu. Usiwahi sahau hiyo. All right, we won't go too far. Sam Gituku is coming up and drive it until 10 when daybreak ends. So the hashtag is still daybreak. Continue talking to us. Let's continue to engage. Alexia Sansan, CJ Atemo.